Hi. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here. I hope you had a good morning. I hope you had a good lunch. I think it's time for us to wake you up after that lunch. I'm Shafika Hussein. I joined Etisalat 2.5 years ago. I'm part of the Etisalat international team. We're about 60, 70 people, and it's a growing team that is here to support our operating countries outside of the UAE. So I work very closely with Mobily in KSA, with Etisalat Egypt, and we have 2 operators in Pakistan, Ufone on the mobile side, PTCL on the fixed side. We have Etisalat in Afghanistan and Maroc Telecom in Morocco. So I cover those geographies and I work on improving the digital channels performance and experience.
Hi everyone, I hope you had a good lunch, and I just want to say thank you to the MoEngage team for putting this event together. It's so refreshing to see everybody here in this environment, exchanging ideas, talking digital. It's something that's been missed for the past 2 years for sure, so really nice to see some familiar faces. I've been in the region for about 5 years, previously at ex-Landmarker, so a lot of the guys over here, it's nice to see some of their ex-colleagues. But now I'm over at Telco, so we're the national telecoms provider for Bahrain, but we also have a group. So Telco also owns Shore, we also own Dirago over in the Maldives and Omnia. So we have this group remit, and my remit is around Chief Marketing Officer, and what that means in simplicity is your end-to-end marketing, your business and data analytics, as well as a merging of 2 functions. So we've merged our branding and customer experience, and we've called that our brand experience. So that's my remit over at Telco.
Hi guys, good. Oh man, I'm not used to hearing my own voice echo like this. Sorry. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for organizing this and having us over. I think MoEngage and Kunal, you guys have been super generous in hyping up this conversation. I come from Virgin Mobile, so I'm the digital commercial officer. I'm in charge of all of revenue, product marketing, so the end-to-end customer experience in the product. I've been here, gosh, a year tomorrow, I guess. I'm coming from a retail e-commerce background, so eBay, DoorDash, startup tech environment, and I'm hoping to have a really good conversation and learn something today.
Nice to have you all. So the first question I have is that, everyone's talking digital. It's okay to, sleep with your phone and keep watching an app and, spend more time with the phone more than your family. So, digital's, already here. I'd like to know your view on digital enablement and what's your opinion? And I think, what's interesting is, Shafika, you have so much experience in telcos, but you 2 gentlemen bring the retail plus telco experience. So how do you compare and contrast that? Sumit?
I think today when you talk about digital, right, it's table stakes. So at the end of the day, it's great to be a buzzword like digital, but what do you really do, right? So from a digital enablement perspective, you have to think about from the consumer's aspect, is it convenience? Is it personalization? Is it giving me the right level of service, right? And then from a merchant, telco, retail perspective on the other end of the spectrum, you have to be thinking about what is consumer usage or purchase behavior telling me that then helps me build a better experience for the customer, right?
Shafika, would you agree?
Oh yeah, I can't deny that for sure.
Well,
so yeah, I didn't mention that. Yeah, I have 20 years in telecom, so it's pretty much all I know. Very keen to understand your world in retail. But what I'd say for me, I have to work with different organizations that have different culture, different people, different markets, different regulations. And for me, digital enablement is making sure that we offer the best experience to our customers on our digital channels. That's websites, applications, our chatbots, etc. And we have a whole ecosystem of apps. We have self-care apps, payment apps, content apps. So how do we make that happen? For me, it starts with understanding what our customers want, the pain points. We, on a regular basis, look at their reviews, understand what they're happy with, what they're not happy with. We look at data. We have a lot of data. So beyond data, what's interesting is to make sense of that data. So what are the insights? What story does data tell us? Once we know what customers' pain points are, we need to have the right people to build the right processes, the right technology. And I think that really for me the technology comes last. It's about what do we want to do, what are customers saying, what experience do we want to deliver. So user experience and design is critical. It's also something we're investing heavily on. And the organization, the culture, the processes, how do we work together? Do we have the right skill set? This is another big pain point, is finding the right people who understand how to build a great digital experience, how to innovate, how to challenge the status quo, how to change the way we work, and then working with the right partners, ecosystem, vendors to make that happen. Sorry, long answer.
Oh, that's a lot. I mean, you clearly are calling out the need of that. It's not just about, having a fast car. You need a driver, you need the highway, you need all of it. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So I think that's a great point of view. Bilal, would you add something to this?
Yeah, I mean, one point that you mentioned, Shafika, that stands out is technology comes last, right? So if we was to kind of take all of this back from all of these deep and meaningful discussions we've been having, right? So accessibility, allowing your customers, but also allowing your employees to engage with digital differentiation. Digital enablement also means for us diversification of portfolio, right? As a business and as industry in telco, you guys are probably calling your family back home not using international minutes, but you're using data to do that, right? So that's starting to become a bit more saturated. So what we're trying to do, and you may have recently witnessed this in the news with Etisalat, but a lot of telcos are going down this route, is diversifying the new portfolio. So one, accessibility, second one, building out revenue streams, right? The other piece that you could look at is capability, right? Whether that's your internal teams, but also from your customers. So self-service is a huge thing with digital enablement as well. It's really important for us to make sure that we have a good customer journey, but also we have a good employee journey. That's equally important, right? So there are probably some things that are a bit more holistic and a bit more end-to-end, and we can take it away from us from being industry specific. What's the point in having a really slick and smooth e-commerce, checkout when your back-end teams are processing an invoice, right? Why should I be on holiday and my team saying, Bilal, can you approve this PO? And I'm talking about 10 minutes ago, right? So we all face these challenges. So if you kind of hang your hat on a couple of simple values and principles, we can extrapolate that and take that back to our industry. So it's quite industry agnostic in that aspect.
Got it.
Just to play to that analogy on the car and what they were saying, right? Telcos sit on massive amounts of data. They can build a Ferrari. They want to drive the Ferrari, but they treat it like a punto, right? Which is terrible. And I think that's where we need to take this.
I'm going to take that as a T to the other facet of the same
Oh,
question.
great. I'll give you a segue.
Well, I want to, not so much of a question for you, but for both of you, everyone's out and about. Everyone's going back to the mall. Retail's still important. People are walking to, physical location. I'm still happy go talk to a real person. So what's the role of, how are you looking at retail and, this whole physical contact? Does that play into your omni-channel strategy? And I'd love Sumit to give his view, but, his job is kind of sexy because, he's like digitally enabled.
Anything but sexy.
Look, we talked about digital enablement. There's retail enablement too, right? We all know that it works both ways, right? So we'd be naive to kind of think otherwise. So for us, our stores play an integral part in our omni-channel journey. But also, if you take a step back again and you think about your business holistically, as telcos, you can have things like cold stores or supermarkets issuing vouchers, right, for your prepaid and for your top-up. So also, that's where you can start to apply some digital enablement too, right? So our omni-channel ecosystem spreads more than just a retail store. It affects our business partners. It affects the way that we operate. And also, if you look at the omni-channel aspect as well, I would go as far to extend this out to our marketing, right? Particularly in the day where we've got brand ambassadors, we've got TikTokers nowadays having such an influence on our estate. So that is a well-rounded piece, amounts to your omni-channel piece. But drilling down into your stores, I think as an organization, we need to reflect omni-channel structures. That's the first thing that we should do, and hold our hang our hats up on that. If we're calling ourselves an omni-channel business, why aren't we reflecting that in the way that we operate, right? So that's one thing. The incentivizations, like retailers, we all know, right? You give yourself a number, you're going to hit the number, and you always drive to the next number. To incentivize them for digital means, I think retail plays a massive part, at least for our business, in facilitating frequency of transactions within the business. I go into store and, or MoEngage goes into store, and I sell MoEngage a package of some means, you know, let me go ahead and get you to download the app immediately, right? That is the next best thing, right? This is where you'll receive your bill. The data that we then get from you as being a digital contact over there is really meaning for us. So we can go ahead and then start to talk about all of the sexier stuff, which lives in Sumit's world, as per se, right?
I think as far as I'm concerned, delivering a good omni-channel experience for our customers is very important. So we have a number of people coming complaining about billing disputes. They don't understand want to understand their bill, want to understand how they can fix their technical problem with their broadband services or anything. And we have so many different channels where they can come and either seek support or complain, that we need to make sure that we have a 360 view of those interactions. So I think as a telco, we've been pretty good at building those omni-channel capabilities for our customers, when we know from one single platform what they do, through our chatbots, through our social media channels, through our customer care, self-care applications. So we're good with that. I think where we're struggling and where we need to improve is everything related to sales. Making sure that we are able to identify a prospect when he goes to the store, when he comes to our digital channels, when he interacts with an indirect partner, and be able to facilitate selection of the right product, the right service. But this is something that where you need to balance the investment with the benefit, and it comes at a cost to build an omnichannel capability for sales and roll it out across retail channels, digital channels, indirect sales channels. So it's something that I think we have where we have room for improvement, but it's much needed as well.
Sumit, I made that comment, but it's not all digital. You still have a guy delivering the SIM card to the user, right? So it's still some footprint on the in the physical world.
There's quite a bit actually, right? So yeah, we are digital first, but we have a very strong view on omnichannel and how we connect it. And I'll give you a couple of use cases or examples, right? So when you think of digital commerce, you've basically downloaded the app, you've chosen your plan, you've ordered the SIM, right? So you've basically chosen your plan. You've now converted. That is payment made online. That's just digital commerce. But you can then choose to get it delivered home, or you can choose to go pick it up in a store, right? This is typical of how you would shop retail e-commerce in general. And that's why I think omnichannel to me is more around experience of being where the customer is. So it's more, it's basically about being omnipresent, right? And being able to service the customer in the channels that they need to be serviced. So the other use case to this is we built out conversational AI models, for example, right? Where all of the chat threads that go through, we're trying to reduce the number of call volumes, we're trying to get bots to answer the questions. However, you could do the same if someone goes to the kiosk, is already a customer, has an issue, you can have the promoter connect back and then have that answered through either the AI engines or transferred to an actual person, right? So I think there's other ways of cross-selling and giving you the right experiences that you deserve. There's so many times when we've noticed through data, somebody basically says, I've chosen the plan, paid for it, I'm an active customer now, but I'm going to be at the mall, right? Or they're actually in the mall, they've seen a kiosk, and they're like, yes, I wanted to convert or whatever. They've now converted, and they're going to be in the mall for another hour. So you have the option to get the driver to literally come and deliver in the mall, because it's location-based, or get it activated in the kiosk. So I think there's multiple use cases to that. At the end of the day, it's online or offline, it's just shopping, it's commerce, right? It's where the customer is and it's that experience.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to turn the conversation a little bit in a different direction, right? This is your core business and experience and things, but I really want to know what's on the horizon, right? By that I mean, in the last 10 years, media houses have been like everything's advertising revenue, this and that. And in the last 18 months, we've saw that privacy laws have changed. Apple's come up with privacy change. Google's saying that no third-party cookie is going to vanish. Do you think it's your time now? Like you have all the data. You know what people are doing. Do you see yourselves becoming like in your own world, like being someone who's sitting next to the Googles and Facebook? Are you trying to compete with them? Are you trying to work with them? What's your view on that? Because that's horizon to me. Like you've already spoken like what you're improving. That's your current day-to-day. But what are you looking at on?
Can I ask the audience? Do you think it's our time? Raise your hand if you think it's our time.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Right, there you go. No, but if I can answer that very briefly, I think we all need to think and build a first-party data strategy. The difference between first-party and third-party is you have the consent already, it's individual, it's more accurate, it's real-time. I mean, so it's a no-brainer. How do we do that effectively with all the different systems that we have, and how do we make sense of the different type of data that we're collecting? Is, I think, a journey we need to accelerate. But yeah, I agree with the general sentiment that there's something great to do. I wouldn't say compete with the likes of Google or Facebook. I would say cooperate, complement each other, because and we are working together actually. EN and Meta have signed a partnership in March to drive more innovation and better digital experience. So I think it's important to really understand the ecosystem and work with the different partners.
Awesome. Bilal, would you add
Yeah, I mean, I think it's our time to play a part, for sure. Would we compete with the likes of Facebook and Google? I'm not too sure about, but we've seen early signs in the industry, right? So we collect a wealth of data across individuals. It could be from an SMS that you receive from your local delivery person to a customer data record saying so-and-so has browsed these websites, right? So we collect all of that information, and I think T-Mobile in the States have done an early play into that. So they have something called Magenta, a marketing platform. And essentially that allows advertisers to go ahead and connect to people based on demographic or behavioral insights, right? So we could start to play a bigger role when it comes to data science, cohort analysis and segmentation, so really start to jazz up in that area. But also we can start to feed a bit more in terms of the accuracy within the targeting that marketers will no longer be privileged to because of the reduction of the cookies. So I think that's really important. What's a really interesting area for me is how telcos can start to play in data clean rooms, right? Those data clean rooms, those ecosystems will really fundamentally change, in my humble opinion, of how brands will start to target people going forward. So I feel that's the next frontier for us to get to. We don't want to miss it because nobody wants a Nokia, and at the end of the day, telcos could have invented the first mobile phone. So for us, this is an opportunity for us to play a part, and that's where I feel that the environment's going to move to, is a data clean room with an ecosystem that we can say, let's give you a good idea of research, and this is the population that you can go ahead and contact, but then you activate that via some of your media partners. So very much to Shafiq's point around complementary.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. I think it's a hybrid approach though, right? So there's different components to this. Should we build ad tech, martech capabilities for first party and then layer on third party data? Absolutely. And you can do that in-house. But as part of the ecosystem, I don't think we have the tech stack or the enablement or the capacity to do that and go head to head with Google or Facebook, right? And there are real life examples of this. So if you look at media houses, or news channels in Australia, so you have News Corp, you have Rogers in Canada, they've got telco, different services, they've got media and content, and then they moved into building out their own ad exchange and ad network to go head to head with the Googles and Facebooks of the world. And they built that out based on the advertiser or publisher model that they can both have. But even then, you still need the back end and the ad engine and ad network to connect to through Google and Facebook, right? So it's not that we go head to head. I think it's more about partnership because and I'm a big believer in partnerships, right? There's no way one company alone can build an entire tech stack in the time required to go to market to actually be disruptive and innovative, right?
Absolutely. I think the reason to put that as a controversial question is that I really wanted to get to the second question, right? Let's talk value, right? When you're talking of this, there's just one segment of where you could drive value. I think when you look at value, are you thinking of like OTT platforms, buy now, pay later, wallets, be it any other fintech application, healthcare, and they're great examples in the region, right? So let's forget the old question. Let's not hold me against it. But I really want to know where exactly you see value. The reason to ask you this question, because all three of you have just acknowledged that you have the data. You've been here for a long time. You are the major contributor to how technology works. You have the resources and you have the budgets to make it happen. Most importantly, so let's talk value. Where are you going with that as well?
I think all of it, right? So the amount of user data and the subscribers we have that enables us to be able to build out multi-vertical recurring revenue segments, right? And so this is the whole point about moving away from product, just a SIM card, and building out a platform, right? So it's not about giving a SIM card in someone's hand. It's about giving you the power of the internet in your hand. And what do you do with it, right? So there's a ton of real life usage on a day-to-day basis. So yes, gaming is one of them, OTT is one of them. Those are the normal standard ones that you'd hear, right? Financial services is massive, right? Shafika can talk to building out payment gateways and stuff like that as well. But there's a lot happening. So for example, in Saudi, Virgin MEA as a whole, we just launched a remittance product, right? It's about $34, $40 billion in terms of market sizing, but it's massive, right? Even here, you've got the two telcos looking at broad-based financial services of how you could add more value. Your insurance is one, but payment cards is one. In the UAE, for our market, we've just launched a buy now, pay later fintech solution on a prepaid card, which nobody else has done. But what we're trying to figure out is how do you take that usage and then add on bundle services so that you lower the barrier to entry for multiple recurring revenue subscriptions, right? So there's a lot that you can play with. E-health is another one. If I put an eSIM in your smartwatch and your smartwatch is tracking everything, how do I better service your healthcare needs from there? Obviously, this is 5 years out, but how do you figure out those sort of real-time in-life solutions?
That's quite a lot. I mean, I'm building my next question in my mind, but I'd like to hear Shafika. You just spoke about some very cool stuff that your team's doing, and it's not just related to one geography; it's across the board. And you are very well versed with the regional boundaries, still making it work. So first, where are you finding that value? What's on horizon? And then how are you taking in consideration the regional barriers or boundaries that when you go with such a service?
So historically, what telecom operators do is invest heavily on the network to make sure that you guys have great speed, great quality, and we've seen that how important it was during the COVID crisis when people had to, remote work, remote learn, do everything remotely, and that's when EA and Etisalat invested to make our network the fastest in the world. You probably know that. A little bit of commercial for us. Other than that, it's very important to deliver the best experience through all of our touch points, whether it's retail, digital. We are looking at bringing more services, better services to our customers. And as was just discussed, some verticals are critical, education, obviously, healthcare. For us, mobile financial services, making sure that you have payment facilitated. We operate in countries where we have big receiving populations when it comes to international remittance. and big. So we have receivers, and we have how do you call that again? The senders. So we have to leverage these demographics across our geographies, and investing in mobile financial services is definitely an opportunity. So, for example, in Pakistan is a big receiver country, and money is being sent from the likes of the UAE or KSA. So mobile financial services definitely, and it goes without saying that gaming, entertainment, music, TV are important. I think metaverse is in everybody's mouth these days. I just heard a conversation before we came on stage about the metaverse. I don't know how many of you are meeting your friends in the metaverse, but I hear that joke all the time. So yeah, gaming, metaverse, all these different verticals are, I think, worth exploring.
For us, value is customer experience, right? What do we add to the customer's life, and how can we benefit them? We heard Mohammed earlier speak about Angami and how they didn't have the payment ability, and they done some work with the telco, right? For us, Disney Plus, Netflix, etc. Why do I want to be able to pay individual bills with the amount of stuff that we've got going on? Why do I need to buy my kids' Roblox credits when I can do it all via a phone bill? So that's kind of like one central ecosystem. But again, moving back to the kind of diversification of portfolio, what you can then begin to understand is behaviors and trends, and this is where data starts to take precedence, and you can start to build out your different verticals. In December we launched our fintech play, which was very much in the open banking platform area. There's various things that can go on from there, but for us it's originally going back to why you create a business, what value can you provide, and for us that means doing something meaningful for the customer, and if we can play in that space, then why not, right? Somebody else is going to, so let's make an impact there. I think we have the readiness to do so. The talent's widely available in the market, the infrastructure is quite clearly there, so there's no reason not to.
Absolutely, it's you own the highways in a way, right? And it's interesting to see that you're also helping build the cars that will drive on it tomorrow. So it's very exciting.
Virgin Mobile Kuwait just launched in the Metaverse Sandbox.
I was expecting.
Yeah, you should tell us about what that comment. I didn't think it made it through clearly.
No, sorry, we were just talking about Metaverse and hitting enthusiast communities. So gaming and gamers is a massive community for us. And so we're launching in Kuwait, and it's actually public news, so I can talk about it. It's in the newspapers now. But we've actually bought land, like a Virgin Mobile store in Kuwait, on Sandbox in the Metaverse. And we're going after the enthusiastic gaming community, right? So it's also another way of, where's your customer? How do you communicate with them? And what makes sense to them?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, and that puzzles me, right? I mean, I've worked with data for on the technology side, like last 16 years. And I'm like, this is fantastic. But after we go off the stage, you go back to, work. What are the current things that play on your mind when you're looking at how do I make this is fantastic opportunity? I mean, and so much leeway to play and, bring people together and understand the data. I think what I hear as a common sentiment from all three of you is that you're just wanting to understand the customer better, be where the customer is, communicate to them in a medium where they understand and send the right message. So how are you trying to do that today? I'm sure you're working on, there are people challenges, just like Shafiqa mentioned earlier, but it would be interesting to just get your opinion on what plays on your mind when you think of that.
So the part that you mentioned, there's this one last part to that also is, how do you predict what the customer is going to do next, right? And I think that's the end goal. So understanding the amount of data you have, collating all of that for your first party, and figuring out usage patterns, purchase behavior, et cetera, and then basically being able to cross-sell, upsell into different verticals is one, right? But I think at the end, you want to be able to predict what's next. So next best action or next best offer. And that's where the whole AI ML piece is important, where it's going through millions and millions of patterns, collating that, and use your first party for your core subscriber base, but then you also use third party for like audiences, and you attract those cohorts as well. And then you add more data, and then you analyze more data to get to more purchase behavior, right? It's just cyclical.
So if I were to just hone into that question, do you think you're prepared to just be ready for the challenge that's coming, or like, it keeps you up at the night?
It's an iterative process where you're preparing every day. I don't think you'll ever be prepared. 10 years after this conversation, we will still be talking about what can we do better, right? What we learned today is already obsolete.
No, the reason I put you on spot there is because, that's the reality we live in. It's never done. You got to keep going back to the same problem and keep moving. And I think, a lot of us face that challenge day in, day out, but we don't get that validation unless you're sitting in a room full of practitioners who are trying to think of this. So sorry to put you on spot there but like, that's...
Dude, I'm so passionate I can go on talking about this. You'll have to throw me out of the room.
Bilal, would you, what's like,
I mean, we go back and face every business challenge that everybody, I'm sure, here faces, right? At least for the immediate businesses, revenue and sales, and how do we grow that? And that could be through multiple means, as sophisticated as AI, or it could actually be setting up an event and having a fun fair and people handing out sims, right? That's the reality, right? But I think for us, what we want to study and understand better is the customer. And building on from your last question, I think we should really value our partners that we work with. So sometimes, we can wish the world and want to build everything ourselves and say we can build this proprietary technology, etc. But there's a lot of cost-benefit analysis that you have to do beforehand, right? By the time you get the right skill set on board, by the time you implement the technology, get the marketing tech stack right, others have already moved who are dedicated to that environment, right? So you build this kind of ecosystem where it allows you to plug and play. That's very important. And that's where I think we'll take a lot of learnings from establishing data clean rooms. And then we work with our partners to build that out, right? That's how we grow businesses and build partnerships. So for me, I think that's what we do. We try to work with great people in the space as far as we're aware. And we really just try to understand the customer in its simplicity. Like, we don't want to overcook it because we can be spinning around all day long, right? You just have to go back to basics. And, we can try and demystify all of this, sophisticated analysis, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're not doing the fundamentals right, it's the whole garbage in, garbage out thing, right? So you're never going to evolve. So for us, we rely heavily on good partnerships, making sure that we've got core ethics and values in place. We have principles behind our decisions, which are led by metrics and KPIs, and we go ahead and we deliver. I'll say to some of the guys, we can build product roadmaps, but if the team hasn't done what they said they would do yesterday, why not, right? So I think that's where we are.
That's a great response. Shafiqa, I'd like to just, like your opinion on not just the technology, but like, the people and process challenge and governance challenge that, comes along with this, because it's not easy where you are to say that, it's so much to deal with and you need help for that. So how do you look at that?
As far as I'm concerned, for the digital channels, we need to have a very clear vision of what we want those channels to do for us. A website can do so many things. It can be an HR tool, it can be a PR tool, it can be a sales tool. So defining what we want the channel to do for us is very important. We have our apps that are, the primary digital touch point with our customers. So we use it for care, support, but more and more also for sales. Our websites are easy to connect to if you're a prospect and you don't want to bother downloading the app. So it starts with defining the vision, be clear on the objective, the KPIs, what you want to achieve. And from there, having the right team, the right processes. We keep talking about being agile, being lean, but there's often a gap between the words and the reality. So we need to work on that, making sure that people understand what we mean by having a lean UX process, for example. And making sure that, we have the right skill sets. We do have gaps. For example, it's very hard for us to find the right solution architects, to find QA people. Sometimes we overlook this, QA and testing phase. We don't do enough usability testing with real end users. So there's a lot of gaps in our process that we're trying to fill. So for me, yes, it's important to have the right people that understand the frameworks and that are able also to push the agenda forward when, I mean, and really understand what the strategy is and how to execute it. So, yeah, people are central.
Yeah, I think when you talk about, so people infrastructure is one piece. The one thing I'm constantly pushing is the why, right? Is the mindset. So you start with the customer, you end with the customer. Everything in between is the experience. But you've got to constantly, and we have to challenge our teams and ourselves to constantly ask why. I want to build this product. Why? Why will it add value to the customer's life every day? Why will the customer adopt it? Why will the customer trust to be able to use this, right? So I think that why, from a mindset perspective, is super important. It's having vision, but then executing and connecting the dots in between, right?
Yeah, that's quite profound. Yeah, I was asking why I'm doing this. I think we are almost out of time. So I personally enjoyed this conversation. It's very difficult to see beyond the lights sitting here, but I hope every one of you also enjoyed the conversation. I thank you so much for sharing your experiences and where you're looking at, and that should really help the community understand that somewhat of a validation that it's a tough problem to solve, but also everyone's working hard to solve it. So thank you so much for your time.
Fantastic. Thank you
for
guys.
having us.
Thank you.